Good evening to one and all. Welcome to the April 3rd, 2019 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're happy to have each of you with us tonight. At this time, I would ask that Ms. LaMagna review the procedures for tonight's meeting.
Good evening. Agendas are available in the front of the room on the table to my right. All of the exhibits pertaining to items on the agenda are posted on the bulletin board. Please feel free to view the exhibits at any time during tonight's meeting. You are required to fill out a yellow form to speak before the City Commission during the business meeting. The yellow forms are located next to the Assistant City Clerk, Ms. Allison Brown. You must complete the sections that ask for your name, address, agenda item number, signature, and date. The form must be completed and placed in the designated box. Items on the agenda for first reading usually do not allow for public participation. However, there are some instances where citizens are allowed to speak on first reading items when they are considered public hearings. Items on the agenda for second reading are open for public hearing, and citizens may speak at the designated time. Resolutions under administrative item number 10 are open for public comments, and you may fill out a yellow form to speak when that item is called. Item 7A is your opportunity to address the City Commission concerning any item on the consent agenda. Please indicate on the yellow speaker sheet the agenda item number of the item you are addressing. Items or discussions not listed on the consent agenda will not be heard during this comment section. All citizens completing a yellow form will be allowed to speak for 2.5 minutes. When you approach a lectern, please speak clearly into the microphone and give your full name and address. The 2.5-minute clock on the monitor above and directly in front of you will start running when you begin to speak. Pay close attention to your time. You will be told when your time has expired. Item number 13 is the public comment forum and will convene after the adjournment of the business meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to speak on any issue that is not on the business meeting agenda. All citizens completing the green form will be allowed to speak for 2.5 minutes. When you approach the lectern, please speak clearly into the microphone and give your full name and address. Disorderly conduct in a public meeting of the City Commission. Article 2, Section 6238 of the City Code of Ordinances reads as follows. It shall be unlawful for any person to behave in a riotous or disorderly manner in any public meeting of the City Commission, or any committee, agency, or board thereof, or to cause any unnecessary disturbances therein by force, shouting, or any other action that is calculated to disrupt such meeting, or to refuse to obey any ruling of the presiding officer, or such meeting relative to the orderly process thereof. Please be courteous and respectful of the views of others. Personal attacks on the City Commission, city staff, or members of the public are not allowed. Please silence cell phones and other wireless devices during the meeting. All conversation must take place either at the lectern or on the dais so that everyone can hear the business being discussed tonight.
Ms. LaMagna, may we have a roll call?
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Traeger?
Here.
Commissioner Delgado?
Here.
Commissioner May? Here. Commissioner Gilliland?
Here.
Commissioner Henry?
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry?
Here. We will now have our prayer by Commissioner Henry and our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Reed.
Gracious Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather once again. We ask and pray, Heavenly Father, that you will guide us, lead us, and direct us, that we will make the very best decisions that we can. We ask and pray, Heavenly Father, that you watch over all of our first responders today and every day. In your name and for Christ Jesus' sake we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes of the March 6, 2019 business meeting of the City Commission.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland, a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. We'll now move on to our agenda. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to move item 8B, Second Amendment to Joe's Crab Shack lease agreement, to administrative items for discussion.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Traeger. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item number 6 is our presentations. Item number 6A is the City Clerk's Office, Florida Department of Transportation, Rethink Your Commute Program presentation.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, and it works. My name is Courtney Reynolds, and I manage Rethink Your Commute, which is a program of the Florida Department of Transportation. And actually, since 2010, we have been promoting smart transportation solutions for Central Florida's workforce. And to unpack that marketing language a bit, what that looks like is working with employers across Central Florida to encourage and incentivize their employees to rethink how they get to work. And now, if that means a transit route, if a VoTran route works for them, that's great. We help them figure that out. But more often than not, we find that it mainly focuses on carpooling, people using their own personal vehicle, removing some cars off the road and saving some gas money. There's also a fantastic resource through VoTran with their van pool program, where groups of commuters can actually lease a vehicle, use it for that commute, and it makes a lot of sense for those folks who are going 20 or more miles each way. But we found a lot more interest in the last few years for biking and walking, and of course telecommuting, because working from home sounds great to a lot of people, and we work with employers to help them actually set that up in a productive way for both them and their employees. We serve all 9 counties in District 5, so it's here in Volusia County, which is my home. I was born and raised here in Daytona Beach and still have family here, but go as far up north as Flagler and Marion, down to the Space Coast and on to the west. What we find, whether we are talking to commuters or companies, and the question of always, what's in it for me, right? Why are they going to do this? And we've boiled it down to like our top 10 list of, okay, as an employer, why do you want to work with us? What problems can we help you solve? And more often what we find is just a matter of recruitment. Unemployment is so low at this point that companies are having problems finding workers for all different types of industries. And by offering a commuter benefits, maybe it is a subsidized bus pass, or maybe it is sponsoring a van pool, something as simple as having showers to encourage your workforce to be able to make an active choice to bike or walk. That can really be a differentiator and be able to help you fill those empty positions so that you can be more productive and bring in money for the bottom line. The other side of it is just, as a retailer, if you're trying to free up parking, either whether it's for visitors, for employees, or for customers, let's free up those spaces for people who are patronizing your business and have it make sense all around. So depending on where that pain point is how we approach it. And the core of what we do, I often joke we're like Match.com for carpoolers. A lot of times people will complain about traffic, but trying to transform those complaints into problem solving, they're not going to naturally do it. We get people connected, whether they're coworkers and neighbors, and help them start that conversation to start a carpool, find a park and ride lot location, and make it work. The other side of it, we often find a lot of enthusiasm for this, is our emergency ride home reimbursement program. And so if you ride the bus to work, carpool to work, van pool, bike or walk, if you ever need to get home, and you and your carpool partner may be best friends, and you need to get home to deal with a sick child or some kind of situation, your friend, your carpool partner can't leave work also to get you home. Get your own way home. That could be Uber, Lyft, a taxi, someone takes you home. Next day, give us that receipt and we will pay you back for the cost of that trip home up to 4 times a year, up to $150 each time. The idea behind that is we want people to feel comfortable and confident committing to that alternate commute. The other side of it is transit trainings. We often find people who ride the bus know how to do it, but the people who don't aren't currently riding it. There's so many unknowns. It feels like, why would I ever do that? We often see it as a great workplace kind of training opportunity to get people out there and try it so they can actually read the VoTran bus schedule and plan for themselves in case that car ever goes down or they want to have that as a backup plan. I mentioned teleworking. We often find individuals like it, but companies are concerned about how they're going to make it make sense for them. Some concerns that are often discussed is, well, if I can't see you working, how do I know you're working? And we help them navigate those questions. The other side of it, the active commuting side, is biking. Myself and a number of folks on my staff, we are certified safety instructors through the American Bicycling Education Association, and I'm also the vice president of the Florida Bicycle Association, so safety is at the core of who I am. And what we find when it comes to biking to work, people may be curious, but they're concerned. So what we found success in is bringing education to the work site, talking about the law, talking about strategies, and having that be a first step. Not necessarily talking to always people who will bike to work, but more than anything, talking to the people who will drive their cars around others who have to bike to work, and knowing how to safely drive whatever vehicle you choose to drive. Assisting in commuters with figuring out, if you want to try it, we'll plan the route and ride it with you. And what we know is if you are currently driving 15 miles or more in a car, as charming as I may be, that doesn't become an instant bicycle commute, right? But the data shows that 40% of trips, discretionary trips, not work trips, 40% of trips are 2 miles or less. Yet 90% of those are car trips, right? So that's the trip to go grocery shopping, the trip to see grandma, trip down the street to see a friend. What short trips can we help people transform into a bike or a walk trip so that they can get more comfortable, so everybody can see more people biking and walking safely, so that when they're ready, they're able to make that choice for the commute. That's one of the reasons that we started the Not So Noisy Bike Week back in 2017. And this was definitely inspired by Daytona Beach and what we're all known for, the roar of motorcycles and Speed Week, but kind of the other side of it. In 2017, our first partner was Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. 2018, we were able to add Daytona State College and Bethune-Cookman University. And so this third year, revisiting those campuses, talking to not just students, but the faculty and the staff. Some faculty and staff are biking to work at all three of these campuses by choice. Bringing safety education to them, free helmets in partnership with the River to Sea Transportation Planning Organization. And the idea behind it is, let's talk about safety, but let's make it fun. We hosted a community bike ride on the Saturday, the idea of, okay, let's not just the campus environment, let's go beyond there. And we designed a route that was able to visit each of the campuses and just have it be a feel-good day. So when my slides progress, they'll all go to the next one. I wanted to give just a heartfelt thank you of gratitude to the City of Daytona Beach Police Department and Chief Capri. They've been fantastic both last year and this year, providing that police escort. And we hope in 2020 we can improve on this and expand our reach and our audience. And hopefully my point tonight is hopefully to spark some internal conversations of how the City of Daytona Beach could be a partner for your employees or for the residents, whether it's a bike to work day or another way to get involved. We'd love to continue the conversation after this evening. So, thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
I have a question for you. Hello.
Hi.
How can we help you with this? What can we do as the City Commission to help you in your promotion of this? I think it's fantastic, especially with our Sweetheart Trail that's coming. So how can we help?
Well, some examples of what other cities are doing, whether it's the City of Orlando, but also smaller cities, City of Kissimmee, City of Winter Park, where we do co-partner on a bike to work event. It's a little bit of theater, in all honesty.
What does that mean?
We'll get together. We're not necessarily biking everybody to their work, but we show the municipal support and the buy-in that this is something that we do here, and it can spark a lot of conversations for the better of, well, if I did bike to work, where would I park?
Okay.
How do I navigate that? Is it okay? And so that helps us start those conversations at employers. The other side of it, City of Daytona Beach is an employer. And what can you do internally to find out how people are currently getting to work? And are there ways of interest that would help you encourage them to take advantage of VOTRAN or take advantage of that van pool program and at least free up some spaces? It wasn't bad today, but I've been here before on other days when it's definitely packed parking-wise.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to item number 7, which is public comments by people addressing the City Commission. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item on the consent agenda. Let's see. Oops, excuse me. My first speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Patricia Hurd. Ann Ruby speaking on item 8G.
Hi, Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. Oh, it's right in my face. One of the things I don't think our city does a good job of is maintaining the assets that we already own. And this item speaks to that directly. It's an emergency repair to the golf cart shed that has significant rust in the structural members. Now, how did it get to this point that it has to be an emergency repair? We do a very poor job of maintaining the properties we own. We do a very poor job of protecting the historic assets owned by others. And it's time for us to pay a little bit of attention to that. Every penny that we can save is money that we have to spend on something else. So I think it might be time to get a list of the properties and facilities that we own that aren't in use and get a condition on them and do an inventory. Because this shouldn't come up as a surprise to have severely rusted structural members in a golf cart shed that's used by the employees. It should not be an emergency. And I think we're managing our assets poorly if we have too many of these. In the Orange Avenue Rec Center, that sat vacant for 6-7 years. No maintenance done on it. So we need to manage our assets better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Patricia Hurd, speaking on item 8I.
Good afternoon. Patricia Hurd, 822 Burnham Street, Daytona Beach, Florida. 8I, my first question is, who are the sponsors of Bike Week? And how are these funds generated? And property owners already pay taxes, and now they are paying for vendors also to be on their own property. Therefore, if the funds are coming from vendors, Bike Week, or wherever, why can't property owners do the donations and use it for tax exemptions? Too many questions? I know.
Jim, isn't that money, the chamber collects that for leasing advertising space on public property, and then they split that money with the city 50-50. It's not private property, correct?
Say that again,
That's correct.
please.
Yeah.
It's advertising funds that comes into the chamber.
Oh, it's the advertising.
Yes.
On public property. So somebody puts a banner across the street, and they charge somebody for that banner, then whatever they got, they get half, and then they give the other half to the city. So it's not private property.
Yeah.
But what she's saying is she has private property, and she has vendors on her private property, and she's saying she pays tax because she's local, but yet she also has to pay for the vendors to be on her private property.
That's
right.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it's not doesn't have anything to do with this item.
Oh.
Okay, so I'll come back again and ask the next question.
Well, let me just answer what I can that
Okay.
you have. This item really is the funds that are generated from the advertising associated with the chamber's activity. They split those funds, and then those funds accumulate for the city commission, and they typically allocate those funds to nonprofit organizations within the city.
Okay.
Okay?
Just wanted to know.
All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ma'am.
That was my final speaker for the consent agenda. And just a reminder to staff that,
Mr. Weatherholt, did you turn one in?
8B was moved to the end of the administrative items for discussion, and that will be taken there.
Okay. All right.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Traeger. Do we have any questions or corrections to the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Moving on to item number 9, which is public hearings. Item number 9A is the Finance Department Amendment to Ordinance 16-110. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending ordinance number 16-110, which authorized the borrowing of funds from the State Revolving Fund loan program to finance construction of various city utility projects by increasing the total amount authorized from $50 million to $62,500,000, authorizing future reallocations of the SFR loan amounts to be approved by resolution, subject to conditions, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute any amendments to the loan documents needed to give effect to this ordinance, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Bliss? Oh, okay. Does anyone have any questions or? Okay, thank you.
And I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item number 10, it's our administrative items. Item number 10A is the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division Land Development Code Text Amendment, amend Article 4. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the Land Development Code, amending Article 4, Section 4.9.d, Scenic Thoroughfare Overlay District, to amend the permitted plant material, specifically placing restrictions on cypress trees, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Traeger. Do we have any comments or questions from the commission? Okay. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
The public hearing is set for April 17th. Moving on to item number 10B, it's the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division Land Development Code Text Amendment, amend Article 5. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the Land Development Code to amending Article 6, Section 6.10.J.2.C.3 to switch one digital billboard location from Clyde Morris Boulevard and West International Speedway Boulevard to Frentress Boulevard and West International Speedway Boulevard, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Henry. Do we have any questions on this item? Okay, no questions. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
The public hearing is set for April 17th. Moving on to item number 10C, it's the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division Land Development Code Text Amendment, amend Article 6. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the Land Development Code, amending Article 6, Section 6.10.0, Comprehensive Sign Plans, to allow for a comprehensive sign plan for college or university properties that are not contiguous, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
So moved.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Traeger. All right, do we have any questions or comments on this item? All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
And Commissioner Delgado just stated that there's no sound on the internet. Someone texted him.
Sound on TV.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
The public hearing set for 10C is April 17th. Moving on to item number 10D, it's the City Attorney City Code Amendment, Chapter 62, Article 2, Section 6234, Possession of Cannabis and Paraphernalia. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending Chapter 62 City Code to amend Article 2, Section 6234, entitled Possession of Cannabis or Paraphernalia, to amend the penalty provision to be punishable by civil fines only, not to exceed $500, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
No, all right. I think we had a motion from Commissioner Delgado and I will say a second from Commissioner Gilliland. I think that's the way it went. Do we have any questions or comments on this item?
I have a question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
How long do people have to pay the fines? If there's a fine imposed, does anybody know how long?
They can pay their fine any time up until the day of trial.
And I'm not sure if we know this, but do people just sometimes not pay the fines? What happens if you don't pay the fines?
If the fine is imposed by the court, or if there's a failure to appear and a fine is imposed, it goes through the clerk system for collection. so the clerk then refers it to a collection agency, and it's collected through the state system
Not this
as provided by the criminal courts.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a driver's license suspension for unpaid?
There is not. That rule of law does not apply to cities. That's a county rule and a state rule. I should add that this ordinance has another amendment that has been made within the last few days. It was an add-on to your agenda, and that is we're going to tie in the potential violation, which will still be a civil infraction for possession of paraphernalia, and the tie-in will be to the use of cannabis. So the infraction would be possession of drug paraphernalia related to cannabis.
Okay.
All right.
It's-
Yeah, you can't do that.
But to provide that information, it's 20 grams or less would be subject to the ordinance violations.
All right. Do we have any other questions from anyone else on the commission? All right. All those, you have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
The public hearing is set for April 17th. Moving on to item number 10E, to City Clerk, City Manager's Office, Volusia County Tourist Development Council Appointment Resolution. A resolution appointing a commissioner as a representative to the city, to the Volusia County Tourist Development Council, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Well, we need to nominate for volunteer.
I would like to volunteer.
Okay.
Okay. I'm good.
Do we need a motion for her? I'd like to move that Ruth Traeger represent us on the Volusia County Tourist Development Council.
All right, we'll take a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Delgado. Do we have any questions or comments? Thank you for your willingness to take on this extra duty, and appreciate it. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Now we're going to move back to item 8B, which was pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. Item 8B is the Business Enterprise Management Department Second Amendment to Joe's Crab Shack Lease Agreement Resolution. A resolution approving the Second Amendment to the lease agreement with Crab Shack Acquisition Florida, LLC, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the Second Amendment to the lease agreement and providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland, and we also have a second from Commissioner Traeger.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to propose 3 amendments to the outside uses, which I think would be helpful we did before the comments in case it addresses any concerns. The first is that the outside activity be limited to one side of the pier. I don't know if anybody's been down to South Beach, but they have it, they have it on both sides, and you have this little corridor down the center, and it's really a claustrophobic, uncomfortable kind of environment, which I'd like to try and avoid. So limiting activities to one side of the pier, limiting the outside merchandise sales to the same merchandise that they sell inside. That's consistent with what we do during the bike weeks. And limiting the outside merchandise sales to 20 non-linear feet. So they could have like 3 6-foot tables or 2 10-foot tables, something along those lines. But I've had a couple of people express concerns from back when Jerry had the pier, and it was like a flea market out there. So I think that those 3 things, remember we still have the 60-day opportunity to terminate without cause, but I think that having these 3 limitations in there would give us some better controls over what activities would occur on the pier. So as a motion, I would like to propose that we're limiting activities to one side of the pier, outside sales be limited to what they sell inside, and that the outside merchandise sales be limited to what they sell inside, and that the outside merchandise sales be limited to 20 linear non-contiguous feet.
Could you explain that one for me so I know how to draft it? What do you mean?
So if I say 20 linear feet, that might be construed to be just 2 10-foot tables. But in this case, that they could do 1 10-foot table near the entrance of the pier and 1 10-foot table up near the restaurant. So they wouldn't have to be together. They could separate them.
So they could only do the amount, but what they could do 3 of them if they were just 5, 6 feet, whatever.
So they could do 4 5-foot tables or...
Yeah.
3 8-foot or 3
we're just
6-foot tables
limiting the
and
amount.
not use the other 2.
The concept here was to have outdoor seating for food and beverages and also sales of merchandise.
Right, and I'm talking about for the merchandise sales, limiting that to 20 linear feet.
20
of-
linear feet
of-
any
of-
width within the.
Well, they would still have to provide the 6 feet of unobstructed pedestrian egress, which means that they'd have to have space for, the salesperson, space for a table with merchandise on it, space for the customer who's making a purchase, and 6 feet for unobstructed passage for people that are trying to go to the end of the pier.
Let me see if I understand clearly. So we're limiting just the merchandise portion of the sale,
Yes.
not the beverage or food sales.
So that would only be limited by the fire watch. They would tell them how much they could fit
So
in
they
there.
could have other tables just for beverage and food.
The food and beverage. I'm
Right.
leaving up to the fire department.
You're just talking about the display sales of,
Right.
of merchandise.
And just to be clear about
Right.
something, I think we're on the same track here, is the types of food items, I'm assuming it's an extension of the restaurant. I'm not assuming it's
Right.
something that goes in competition with
Yeah.
the existing merchants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they do sell T-shirts inside, so they
Sure.
would be allowed to sell T-shirts outside.
So
but
it's
they
whatever
don't
they
sell.
have right now,
They don't sell CBD oil inside,
right?
so
Or
they would not be able
taffy
to
or chocolate or anything like that.
Right.
Okay.
And it's limited to, these are Joe's Crab Shack employees selling Joe's Crab Shack merchandise. These aren't itinerant vendors.
Okay.
That's what the lease says. But I think that these 3 additions would, I don't think they were going to do much more than this, but I think that it would give a level of comfort to the folks, particularly the other merchants in the
Yes.
area, that, it wouldn't be, honestly, what Jerry was doing out there before we acquired the pier.
Mr. Gilliland, I have 2 questions. Are you, I think tables come in fixed sizes. I think 6 and 8 feet, right? Aren't those the common sizes? So do you want to make it a multiple of 6 or 8, like 24 or 16? Do you have a particular vision of what that looked like? And then the other question was, do you want everyone to be on the same side of the pier, or do you care?
So I think I think everything on one side of the pier.
Right.
So you avoid that sort of South Beach, cattle chute kind of thing.
So we should say.
But you're right. If I'd be okay with 24 feet. That was 3 8s or 4 6s
Right.
or something like that. But
And then as far as like you were saying, one side, should we just go ahead and say like everyone on the south side or north side or whatever? Or
I'm fine with them making that decision.
Right. Isn't it the north side where there's a trail where you can go out on the pier to fish? So then they would just keep going.
And they may want at the west end to be on the south side, and then have a gap where as you get nearer the restaurant, they want it on the south side. So in the north near the west, and then on the eastern part of this boundary, they might want to do that. I want that to be there.
You're not thinking about that.
I just don't want it side by side with this 6-foot narrow. And honestly, you couldn't do merchandise sales in there because you wouldn't have any place for customers to make purchases without obstructing the 6-foot walkway.
But you don't want it to be staggered back as you go either, right? Or do you envision everyone being on one? You envision everyone being on one side, not
I think
staggered
they
back
would.
And forth? Do you care? I don't know that it was clear.
Yeah, and if they wanted to try that, I don't know that it would be, I think the fire department would have a problem with that for people trying to get off the pier in the event of a fire in the restaurant, because...
I think one side.
We clearly would mark the 6-foot section.
So... So what do you think? So we limit it to either the north side or the south side at their discretion?
Yeah, they'll know what's best for them.
I think that probably would be a cleaner look.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
All right.
otherwise it'd be pretty chaotic when you have people lining up and waiting, and it's going to really cut into that. And we'll be zigging and zagging. I think.
No, that's a good point.
Eating. Yeah.
So then my proposed amendment would be the merchandise sales would be on one side, either the north or south, at the tenant's discretion. They sell outside only what they sell inside for merchandise, and that the merchandise be limited to 24. Merchandise sales be limited to 24 linear feet.
That'd be the sales area, because these are in the lease they're referred to as kiosk, and I would imagine there would be some signage around it, and then a display area. So we'll limit it to 24 feet of merchandise sales display area.
That's fine.
Well, if there were, of course, I'll take public comment, but if there were a motion to that effect, you could direct me to make these changes. We obviously need the tenant's approval, and so with that direction, I'll have to take those changes to the tenant for their acceptance and signature.
Well, if we pass it tonight and they don't like it and don't want to sign it, then we have no second amendment.
Correct, and staff will notify you by email of the outcome.
That's fine. That's fine. Mm-hmm. So I propose that as an amendment to the motion.
Second.
There's a second.
Who was the second?
I think
Second.
Who was the original?
the original first and second was Gilliland and Traeger to approve the
Traeger's the
resolution.
motion, her second.
All right.
And then the amendment is me and May.
Okay. All right, let's make sure we get it right. All right, we have a motion and a second and an amended motion and
I
second
have
with 3 speakers or so.
Speakers, yeah.
Okay.
Our first speaker is George St. Pierre, and on deck is Vernon Weatherholtz.
Hi, my name is George St. Pierre. I have a store at 1022 Main Street in Daytona Beach. First of all, thank you very much for that panhandling ordinance. It has done numerous things for our city. I'm not opposed to Joe's Crab Shack having the pier. I believe it would help them be able to police their front door, which definitely needs to get done. I agree with him that, eliminating their amount of outside sales would not put a burden on my sales, and limiting it to what they are selling in their, as Joe's Crab Shack type merchandise that they sell, would be a benefit, rather than in years past. I don't know if you guys remember when they had it, and they had all these little kiosks running all along the north side of the thing, and it was everything from throwing darts at balloons to slushies being sold. It was everything. It was like a flea market out there, and that takes away from the businesses in the area who struggle year round. And you do have to remember that this is one of the most valuable pieces of property in Daytona Beach, and they're getting it. And they're getting it pretty much at the promise that if they do make money, they're going to give you some more. And thank you very much for my time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Vernon Weatherholtz.
Vernon Weatherholtz, 3 Granville Circle, Daytona Beach. I like what Commissioner Gillen was talking about, limiting the space. But the big issue is whether we're going to charge the enterprise more money for setting out tables, if I understand correctly. I think that if you enlarge your business, I know that the city would be hopefully getting more revenue from the extended business. I understand that point. But I think the issue is the city giving a prime location something for nothing. And, and Daytona Beach is really thriving. I think that the city is doing a great job. But I think it kind of leaves an impression for the other folks down there of giving this prime location for free. And limiting, giving them 24 feet or 30 feet of additional space to sell the same merchandise they sell inside. I don't think that's a big deal. I think the issue is the outside tables, the beverage and food. And giving them at a no rate, I would be against it. I think that the city, we're trying to generate funds for everything imaginable that we need. And I would be opposed to that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
That was my final speaker, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We've had 2 speakers and an ordinance read and amendment Do we
Mr.
have
Mayor,
any
we're
other
going to vote
comments?
on the amendment first, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Good. All right, so we got a motion and a second.
To amend the
To
resolution.
amend the resolution. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Now we'll vote on the resolution. All right. Go ahead.
And we did have a first and a second for the resolution. Do they need to amend their first and second to adopt it as amended?
We'll now take a final vote on the amended resolution.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just point out that they exceed that base number every year, so what we're going to get is 8% of all sales that happen in this area.
Yes.
So, it isn't that, I just want to make it clear that this isn't for free. We're going to get 8% of everything they sell out there, food, beverage, alcohol, merchandise.
If I can add to that, and to respond to the speaker's comments, the uses for the approach will be limited to sale of food and beverages and merchandise. So there'll be no carnival type events going on out there. And to your point, Mr. Gilliland, yes, the city will continue to get percentage rent from use of that area.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just so you know, the amount of percentage rent is 8% of anything over, I think it's $5 million. Yeah. At the break point's $5,500,000, and in the past we have averaged anywhere from $292,000 just in the percentage rent to $251,000. So it depends on the business, of course, but they're contributing pretty heavily to the city. The total rent that's been collected over the past few years is started at $567,000, and currently it's running somewhere around $518,000 in rent to the city.
That's $500,000. That's nothing to sneeze at. And I think this is going to give the pier more of a presence. And the terminology saying we're giving it away, we're not giving it away. It's a lease, and we're going to get more money from them using this space. And I think it's going to give it more of an appearance as you approach, because there'll be some dining outside and just a few little vending things. But I think it's also going to help them. The gentleman came up and thanked us for the panhandling. There's still some activity going on over there. This gives them the right to be more involved as they approach them, rather than just hanging out on the pier before the customers actually approach.
Commissioner Reed, you're exactly right. And just so everybody knows, we approached them and asked them to take it on to expand it to the entire pier, because with them managing it, because they're there every day, they can do a better job of keeping people out that shouldn't be there in the first place, and at the same time give a great experience to somebody visiting their restaurant and the city of Daytona Beach. So that's the impetus for doing this.
Okay. All right, and I think it should also be noted it doesn't impede upon the fishing or the public access to the pier. Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
I'll work with the manager in advising you as to the final contract approval.
All right. Is that it?
That is
All
it.
right. I guess we start tonight with commission comments from Commissioner Reed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to say that I was very successful in the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. I may not have been the grand winner, but I was one of the people that lost some weight and did receive a prize for that. We had a great affordable housing workshop. I learned some things that I didn't know, and I'm looking forward to us pursuing that further. On Sunday, New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church celebrated 121 years in our community, and the mayor and I were there to show our respect and to honor them for serving our community. And then on this afternoon, if you missed it, we opened our Midtown Police Substation, where the old Highway Patrol Office was on the corner of Orange Avenue and Nova Road. So we're excited about that. As you know, we continue to move out west. But even in moving west, we've got to make sure that the core of the city is secure. And there's so much that's happening in the core, we need the police to be able to respond quickly to what's happening within the Corps. We just had a situation this past weekend, and so situations are constantly happening, but I believe the presence of the police station being there is going to help and be advantageous to the citizens that live in that area. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Traeger?
I was there too, and I thought it was very magnificent. It seemed like, well, they had the sheriffs and they had the widow of the man that the building had been dedicated to in, 1986, I believe, or something like that, who had been killed in the line of duty. But anyhow, it was almost like coming home again. But they had a very nice group of people, and look forward to good things.
Great, great. Commissioner Delgado?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comment or my question tonight have to deal with the First Step Shelter, and I don't know if this is maybe a First Step Shelter board issue, so if it is, then let me know and I won't go any further. But I read the article in the paper, I think it was last week, about the difficulties with the fundraising, and I thought that's a difficult thing to read about because it's very disheartening, I think, for people. I think there was some confusion about that $1.5 million number. I think that includes like 3 years of operating funds. So I think that was an important thing that I don't know if that message got out. I haven't seen kind of a response or retort from the First Step Shelter board to let people know that's maybe not accurate. But I really hope, and I understand in the last meeting there was discussion about a new model of fundraising, or maybe getting a board together to do the fundraising. I really hope that, and I don't know if the city can be involved in some efforts to do some fundraising, because we know that we're going to need some money to keep that shelter going, and the city's contributions have been very generous. We've spent more money than we planned on spending, and the county's helped out, but we need that ongoing support from the community. So I've reached out to a few people, and I think there are business owners and people who would be interested in doing private donations and in working to help fundraise. I don't know what direction that's going in, and I don't know if it's appropriate for us to get involved, but I wanted to correct the perception that it was 1.5 was needed just to get it up and running in the first year. That included several years of operating, and I want to encourage the First Step Shelter Board to get their message out and not let it be a one-sided thing where, again, we're not doing enough or we're going to fail. I think it's really important that the public message be positive when it comes to First Step Shelter. And lastly, I want to encourage them to get together a group to do some more fundraising and to look at people like the members of the CEO Alliance and business owners like that who can create a group with their peers to do some high-level fundraising and hopefully, bring in a sizable amount of money or create an endowment like we talked about with the park that we're doing, where an endowment will fund operations for years to come. So I don't know if that's something we can talk about now, but if that is, great. Otherwise, that concludes my comments for the evening.
Well, first of all, I think it's always appropriate for any member of the City Commission of Daytona Beach to discuss any action or item taking place with First Step, because we have the greatest amount of investment in it as all communities are. A lot of communities are invested, but I think it's always appropriate as first. Second, there are some things that I think have inhibited the fundraising, and some of it is timing. Some of it is some of the uncertainties that the board faces, but some of it is that a better job has to be done, both by the board and the executive director, and I think I've tried to make that clear to the executive director, whose chief responsibility is fundraising. One of our board members is a member of the CEO Business Alliance, and he's promised to meet with the executive director to take on a more active role. But I would also say that it is going to take a Herculean effort from anyone who's deeply committed to First Step. First of all, to tell the message of what will happen at First Step, which is a part of the challenge of fundraising when a building is not open, and you're in part trying to raise funds to ensure that you have some of the things on the inside of the building that you want to make sure you have. But I think we have to move forward with telling the story of that this is still a necessity for our community to serve this population in a way that will benefit us and those that we seek to serve. So to that end, I guess I would simply say, any suggestions are welcome, and look forward to you reaching out to our executive director.
I'll be honest, I'm afraid I don't have a lot of confidence right now in Mr. Jallis's fundraising abilities. So, I'm concerned that he's not the right person to do that fundraising. So, I'm glad that we're looking at other options, because we put so much behind this program, and so many, we've taken so much of a leap of faith on the city's part, and I would hate to see it stumble and fail because someone isn't the best person to go out and to raise that money. So, that's just something I hope he will continue to be very careful of, and I'm sure that there's things he's very good at, but fundraising is something you have to be, it's a knack unto itself, and not everyone has that. Not everyone's a salesman. Yeah. So hopefully we can tap into the talent base of people that we have that want to help the program. And other than that, thank you very much.
And I just follow up on that. I've told him directly in meetings that I feel that his attention has been on sort of the wrong side of the fence as it relates to what his responsibility should be. More, he's been focused, in my opinion, on the operations when it should be focused on, how do we raise these funds?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner May.
Good evening, everybody. So a few weeks ago, I had a resident mention that sometimes we bring up issues and then we don't complete the follow-up on the item they bring up in their public comments. So to that end, I asked the city employees, did a fantastic job. Thank you, Fire Chief Driscoll. I appreciate it. He put together a list of the minority business enterprise that we have in the Daytona Beach area, a list of their names, what they provide to the city. These would be minority business enterprise as well as women's-based businesses. So the city is, in fact, working toward that direction. I wanted to clear that up. And I think that was just a little issue we're having. And you're welcome to take a look at it at any time. A second thing is this. I would very much like for Chief Capri to come up for me, please. And he sent me this very nice email, and it had some of the code cases on here. And I had a specific question for you. And it's a form. It tells me as a commissioner what the types of cases are, the percentage that's opened, and the percentage that has been closed. And I requested it for my zone, for Zone 3, sir. So are you familiar with this? Yeah. I'll give it to you. No worries. There you go. Yeah, it's okay. My question to you, sir, was in Zone 3, how is Zone 3 looking right now?
It's good.
It's looking pretty good, right?
Really, really good.
Could we take a look at the one entitled rental inspections, please,
rental
sir?
Inspections, yep.
That one had the greatest discrepancy to me. So what does that mean, rental inspections?
35 cases open
right,
that they're looking at, along with 18 that they had closed.
Okay, so about 50%,
yeah,
roughly.
we just hired a rental inspector.
Okay, super. And then flip over to the next one, sir.
And we have 39 open cases right now.
Okay, and the next one on the last year, 2019, that one?
Okay. 21 cases open, 7 closed.
Okay, so we're early on. So here's my question. I say all of this because I would like to know, as the newest commissioner, this weekend I learned something interesting. Always find out the history of something, the institutional history of something.
Absolutely.
Right? So here's my question. As it relates to Airbnbs, where are we right now? What is the city's position on it? What is our future on it? What is going on? I'd like to know.
So we are in the middle of a lawsuit brought by a number of homeowners over our ability to regulate Airbnbs. Okay. We prevailed on a preliminary injunction several months ago, but we do have a final summary judgment hearing set for later this month.
Okay.
So I would say the state of the law really hinges on the outcome of that hearing.
Okay, and then my follow-up question is, as it relates to the tourist zone, right,
okay, yep.
where this is allowed, correct?
No.
What do we think?
It's not allowed.
T-zone.
T-zone.
Sorry, T-zone. T-zone.
T-zone.
Yeah, well, the places where we allow it, the Airbnbs?
They're allowed in a number of districts, T being primarily the zones, but also several others.
Several others.
Redevelopment areas.
Where are these violations occurring? Do you have any idea?
There's 39 in open right now citywide, and there's an array of different areas. I don't have the report with me, but we just followed up on that today. Actually.
Okay, all righty.
So I sent it out.
I have a report that I just got today, and I don't have it. I haven't read it and don't have it with me, but I'll be happy to share that with you.
That'll be great. And I'm just really curious because again, I'm the newest member here. What happens to somebody who breaks the law as it relates to this?
Well, it's fines and it's liens that are put on property and whatnot. I found the best way to attack a problem is from the financial end. People don't like to pay money when they don't have to. So if you get them on something that's a legitimate violation, you try to work. Goal is compliance. If we can't get compliance, then we have to put the fines. And when the fines build up, we cap it, and there's a lien on your property. So if you go to sell your property, that lien's got to be satisfied.
And so are we being proactive right now or reactive?
Very proactive.
We're proactive.
We just hired another new rental inspector that just started. That's really we're really looking at a hard look at some of these the rental issues with the rental permits and whatnot because unfortunately you're going to people who try to play the system.
Exactly.
And we want to make sure we get on top of them. That with code enforcement, since we took it back over about 9 months ago, I mean you look at the activities, it's almost tripled of what we've been doing.
You've got my full support on the Airbnb thing. Thank you,
Yes, ma'am.
sir.
We're all over.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
As it relates, then, thank you.
Okay.
Good. Mr. Jagger, thank you, sir. Last week, Commissioner Gilliland brought up something interesting, the sober living houses. How does that relate? Because in one area of Zone 3, we have quite a few of them and quite a few complaints. Is there anything we can do about it or not? And again, this is an issue that was brought up by a resident, and I'm just following up on it.
Okay, so I did send an email to the commission this week that you should have in your inboxes. As it relates to rental property, if you're trying to tie these two issues together, the sober homes would be governed in the same way that any other properties would be with regard to our rental licenses and state regulations for larger multifamily units. So, so they would have to comply with all of our regulations for group homes.
So it's a group home. Anything of discriminatory factor, if we don't allow them, can we stop a certain percentage of them? Can we limit the number of them?
You're required by federal law to provide a reasonable accommodation to a group home, but that being, or to a sober home. But that being said, you can regulate them in the same way that you would other types of group homes or other properties or that have housing for persons with disabilities. So you need to treat them in the same way that you would other similar group homes.
Okay. I have one more question. What are the parking requirements as it relates to number of people in a single family dwelling? What are the parking requirements with that?
I know that you have to park on the paved surfaces, but in terms of the area, I'd have to defer to planning for that or code enforcement.
Okay. And then this issue keeps coming up, and I don't like coming up behind an issue. I like to get ahead of things. So during February, we had our bike week questions and answers, and we took up some time with some parking issues. When do we do a bike week review? Is that on the horizon? I don't know. Who do I ask for that?
Manager for that.
If anytime, I mean, we've got several things going on right now with workshops, and that's something we could workshop if that's the desire of the commission.
Yeah, I thought that came up last time. There was a moment that somebody brought up the fact we had to review some of the issues we had with it, some of recurring issues, some questions people had with it. Did that come up at all, or am I confused?
I think that's before we review it, the plans for bike
Maybe
week.
it's the plans I'm thinking about. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
That's what that is.
Plans.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about, yes,
you
sir.
just want to review how we establish, how we
yes.
permit the
It
plan?
seemed as though we had a little bit of an issue with it, and I don't want that to happen, and take up more time of the commission, let's say a week before the next bike
We've
event.
worked on some of that, so let us get back together, and then we'll bring a report back.
Excellent. And then that is going to be, I will tell everybody that Housing Authority, I think I can share this, they're having an event on April 18th, and it's going to be bringing about 57 investors and developers to the area to look at Daytona Beach for attainable housing. I like the phrase attainable housing, and that is with Terrell Bates, the CEO, I believe, of the Housing Authority. And are we supporting her with that effort, sir?
Yes, we are.
Fantastic. That was a lot. Thank you.
Oddly enough, today I got calls from two different people, one going to work and one going to lunch, that wanted to talk about converting hotels into affordable housing. And neither of them knew we had the workshop on Saturday. It was just random that these are people that I know. And a week or so ago, I connected Ms. Bates from the Housing Authority with one of our large development folks in town who the developer actually approached me about who would be the right person to talk to for HUD grants. And I recommended you talk to Terrell because she is a brilliant woman when it comes to the federal programs and whatnot. So it's interesting because things have been stagnant for so long, and all of a sudden we're seeing what's been lacking, which is that private sector interest in working on this problem. You know, and I mean, that's 3 in the last week or two. I bet there was 3 in the first 12 years, of inquiries that I received. So I'm hopeful. I mean, I think that's a good sign. Let's see, just Jim, actually, Denzel called me about the zone cleanups, and I took the opportunity to mention to him about some complaints that are coming out of Indigo again. Sounds like the the weeds are getting kind of high. There were a couple more about the building not being in good condition, some of the either softer fascia falling down, and the sign out at Williamson being, kind of encrusted in mold. So I asked him to have somebody take a look, but, there does seem to be, I think they've only mowed once, and that was back in October or something. But, I did ask him to take another look. The couple of public works things. So we had executive committee for TPO this morning. Andy, I see you back there. So June 10th is our deadline for getting comments to District 5 about that LAP policy they put together. There's going to be some technical discussion at TCC this month about it. We're trying not to have the policymakers get in the way of the technical guys, because the technical guys are the ones that actually can communicate with DOT better than we can. We have a lot of LAP projects. The Derbyshire sidewalks that just got approved last week is another one. There's a lot of trouble with this. They want to cover construction only. Design work can be extremely expensive if the local has to cover it. There's a lot of administrative pieces. They want it to put a minimum project amount in there, $250,000. Our projects are generally bigger than that, but there are some smaller sidewalk projects that we've run through the LAP program that were less than that. So we're working on it. The district gets graded by the state and the Florida Transportation Commission on the success of the LAP projects they have out there. That pedestrian overpass that fell in Miami was a LAP project, and they have got they're looking very hard at the projects now. And oddly enough, the one thing in District 5 that they've come up with, and remember, as Courtney mentioned earlier, District 5 is 9 counties, is that there are projects that get deferred, and if you start a project, DOT wants to make sure it gets finished. So we're trying to get more to the root cause of why they feel a policy is necessary, because none of the other districts has a LAP policy. So it's taken a bunch of time, but we got all the right people working on it, and I'm hopeful that we're not going to end up in a disadvantaged position versus where we are today, when this thing gets adopted later on this year. Another public works thing, Andy and company, thank you very much for getting that application in for the stoplight at Grand Champion. I read an interesting article about Buc-ee's. Their starting pay is $13 an hour. For Buc-ee's, that mega gas station thing out there. No trucks, but 120 gas pumps. But $13 an hour is great starting pay. That's $27,000 a year if you're working full time. And there's benefits. There's a 401k matching program. They're really a stand-up company. I'm learning more and more about them, and I was a little hesitant. I wasn't wild about it when it moved through. I don't have any real reason to reject it. But I'll tell you, I'm really happy that they're coming to Daytona Beach at this point. And lastly, I don't know if everybody saw the article in the paper today about what happened at the county council yesterday, but I hear things got fairly heated. And one of the things I love about this commission, I've been doing this, like I said, since '05, and I've probably been on 10 different iterations, compositions of commissions, and we've never acted like that. We've disagreed. We disagree like every meeting on something. There's always a little something that comes up. But, we've always respected the other person's position, and I'm just proud to be part of this commission and appreciate all of you and all the folks I've worked with in the past.
Thank you.
Just a couple of quick things. First of all, Jimmy Ann was scheduled to be completed on April 12th, and it is completed. I've gotten quite a few calls and emails from residents, and they are riding smooth, and they're very happy. So happy to see that. And I was really happy to see the new police station, and that it's going to be well manned, 20 to 30 officers, and I think that is fantastic. It's going to really give some presence over in that area, which is what we all would like to see. So I'm glad to see that. The Attainable Housing Workshop Saturday was phenomenal, and I'm hoping that we will be able to move from there and all be able to work together and make sure that we are working to get better, affordable, and attainable housing. Baseball kicked off one Saturday, and I threw out the first pitch, and city workers said at my first pitch they got some pictures, and it didn't look, might have not looked as good as I would have hoped, but the Daytona Beach Tortugas were wonderful in that they presented the city of Daytona Beach a check for $5,500. So I'm hoping that maybe we can do something nice and bring something for them, a plaque or something, and bring them in one meeting so that we can honor them, because this is the third year that they have completely, along with Chief Capri, sponsored baseball and t-ball. So that was baseball, and then t-ball will kick off on tomorrow. And I think that's it. Oh wait, one more thing, and that is that on April 9th, I want to remind everyone, Tuesday, April 9th, that at YSG is the Zone 5's half-cent sales tax meeting. And so if you'd like to come in and get some more information about the roads and what we plan to do with the half-cent sales tax, you
What
can
day
see
is that?
It's on this little...
Tuesday, April. Oh, okay. So
Yes, and I'm just going to announce Paula's for her. She has... Oh, hers is... No, the 4th.
Last night.
Yeah,
Okay.
April 4th.
Okay, so I'm just going to... Because she... Okay. Okay, that's Zone 2 at Midtown tomorrow, April 4th. And then there will be one Thursday, April 11th at Sunnyland Park. And there are more coming up, but those are the next 3. And that's for the half-cent sales tax.
What time do those start?
5:30. 5:30.
5:30? Okay.
And that's going to do it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me.
Excellent. I will simply mention the Mayor's Fitness Challenge came to a close on Saturday, and it was a grand finale. It was just outstanding. I want to thank publicly once again Miss Betty Goodman. Just did an outstanding job. This is our best fitness challenge yet. So kudos to you. Great job with you and the staff. Many staff persons helped from the magnificent videos and pictures that are documented during this time to having to open the facilities and make sure that everything is in place. The park's looking good. Really a great opportunity for us to showcase our facilities in the city, as well as to encourage, exercise, eating right, and wellness in the community. We lost, now this was the best attended fitness challenge throughout the duration of the challenge. I think we had something like 50 people to lose over 300 pounds. We gave away over 400 giveaways with our magnificent sponsors, because it's primarily sponsored, and no person went away without receiving some gifts, but it's sponsored by many of our prominent businesses in the community. Our biggest loser, whose name I can't recall, but she has a very interesting story. She's actually a snowbird who comes down each year for about 4 months, visits with her sister from Michigan, and the two of them also have run marathons. But she had a life goal of getting back to her pre-baby weight, the baby weight from her last child that she'd had 26 years ago. And she has 6 children.
Wow.
And at the conclusion of our fitness challenge, she reached that goal. So it was a magnificent accomplishment, but also just illustrated goals and setting goals and achieving them. And so she received $500, and the next person, our biggest loser with the greatest total amount of weight, was a person who lost 30 pounds. And so it wasn't all about losing weight, but the fellowship and the camaraderie of it all was just great, and it was a great time. And again, thanks to everyone for supporting it. And I think I would like to say from the city manager's report how pleased I am to see that we will have a new national pro fast pitch team coming to Daytona Beach. They'll play 20 home games at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Beginning on May 26th, the team, the Beijing Shugang Eagles, is the first women's pro team in Volusia County. The NFP is the most diverse professional sports league in the United States. 33-member team will reside Daytona Beach throughout the season. So there's another example of economic development. They have to stay here, and they will be generating folks to come and watch them play. And so very excited about that. And I would also like to mention, even though this won't be, the Brown Riverfront Esplanade Foundation is hosting open house events to show the public the 30% plans of the amenities and design features proposed for Riverfront Park. The meetings will be at the News Journal Center on Wednesday, April 17th. Wednesday, April 17th from 10 a.m. to noon, and 2 to 4 p.m. on Wednesday, April 24th from 5 to 7 p.m. Again, they're trying to do a great job to keep this transparent and to have public input, so we certainly appreciate that. And that concludes my remarks. I will highlight some of what we've talked about on social media tonight for the first time, and I'll try to do that following most of our meetings moving forward. Mr. Manager, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only one thing I'd like to add is the city's hosting a fair housing and financial wellness clinic at Allen Chapel AME Church at 580 George Ingram Boulevard on April the 13th, 10 to 2. The public is welcome to join the HUD housing counselors, mortgage lenders, realtors to get info about home ownership. It's a great opportunity for first-time home buyers. So we're doing a world of different things with the city, as you can tell, and offering opportunities for training and knowledge in the everyday lives of the people who live and work in Daytona Beach.
Fabulous. Mr. Attorney? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before we close, I just want to remind that we were supposed to have had a workshop tonight, that we would reschedule that on the residents first.
Yes. Okay. All right. This meeting is adjourned. We will convene with our public comments immediately. Please have a seat. We're going to begin.
Our first speaker tonight is Gina Rivers, and on deck is Marjorie Johnson.
My name is Gina Rivers, 1061 Continental Drive in Daytona Beach. I'm here representing Daytona Express Youth Track and Field Club. We've been in existence for 5 years, going into our 6th year. And I was here to ask for sponsorship funds, but correct me if I'm wrong, it's already been allocated through Bike Week.
Yeah, but you can just tell us your event, and then if we decide we want to do it, we can forward it and to help support it if possible.
Okay. Well, we are hosting our 2nd annual track meet. We had our first one last year, brought in 533 participants. We had families come down from South Carolina and Georgia. So this will be our 2nd one, and we're just looking for sponsorship funds to help keep this going. Our event is on May 11th, and we hosted at Emery-Riddle Track. The parents, from talking to them last year that came, the athletes, they made it a whole weekend. So it is bringing, people to our city for this event, and it's allowing those that are in our city that can't travel to different meets, because we travel as far as down by Miami for track meets. So it even gives our residents here, the older ones or who can't drive, a chance to see their grandkids or their kids participate in track meets. So I was just here just asking if there's any type of funds or anything the city would like to support our track meet on May 11th. I have paperwork here to leave with the contact information.
Okay, let me ask you a question. How do you account for how many people actually come?
Registration. They have to pay a registration fee.
And they have to pay a registration fee? Mm-hmm. Okay. Because it sounds like, these are the types of things that sometimes we lose sight of as a community that do generate again, economic development. Seminole County is noted for youth sports, and because people, and my sister will tell you how expensive it is, Pastor Smith, I see in the audience, it is to raise children in youth sports now, because they're constantly traveling to different locations, and it costs money, and they have to spend money. So, my thought is that as you try to grow this, it may be something that you could even tap into the CVB, Convention of Visitors and Bureau, CVB. But I would like to donate $200 from Bike Week funds, because I like to see these type of events throughout our community: basketball tournaments, softball, tennis, golf, anything that we can get, bringing young people to support the young people that we already have that are here. Because our young people are going away traveling, spending money. Let's bring some of it back into Daytona Beach.
And we was able to do that last year with our first track meet. And people looking forward to coming back.
Okay. And Commissioner Gilliland said he.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Are you a 501c3?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And last year, how many corporations did you go to?
They're all like written on the back of my shirt. That's different.
Great.
That supported us. And rather if it's just volunteers.
I see your name on there.
Yes. So last year I sponsored to the tune of $750 for my business. I was not on the commission. My question is, what are your total fund requirements, and how much? And I'm asking a difficult question. How much have you already raised prior to coming to the community? How much have you already raised?
Already raised roughly, and this is from our registration, I would say 2,000.
And how much do you need?
To get this track meet going, 5.
Okay.
And that's including supplies to prep.
And then you sell, but let me ask you this, because you'll have a track club, and you're supporting the youth of the community, correct? So any proceeds that you earn from the track meet and other such events,
we supply
you're
them
using
healthy snacks when they're at the track meet, because track meets, we can be there for like 8 hours a day. So with whatever funds we get, we're buying them healthy snacks to have them, hydrate and nourish them throughout the track meet.
But if you raise money, and anything that you have as a surplus is going to be utilized to help further your club.
Correct. And be able to secure that. We're leasing Riddle, so whatever funds we have to
secure and pay
Riddle, have to pay them up front before we can even lease it. So.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. 200.
Yeah.
Okay.
And am I allowed to ask a question about something else that was on the agenda, or is that not?
No. You can't ask because your time is up. But
all right.
Yeah, 50 seconds.
It may not be up.
I stopped it when
you started talking.
She stopped. She's right. Go ahead. You got 50 seconds.
Okay, because I work with juveniles in the court system, so when it comes to the marijuana thing, how is it going to be addressed with juveniles? Are parents able to pay the fine if they're juveniles?
There's a separate, Mr.
Or
Delgado
is
can take care of
or they're going to have to go through civil citation? The civil citation program is
There's a separate civil citation for juveniles that is a whole separate program. So that would be handled differently, although I suppose they could be given, I guess they could 3 things. They could give the juveniles a juvenile citation, which is handled, I think they go to the police station and they do chores or whatever.
We deal with that at the
They could
courthouse.
still do that. That didn't change anything. But then they could also give them the adult citation, I suppose.
They can give them a fine and don't
then,
even have to deal with it.
Then they could go to court, and I don't know if the court would let them do community service to buy out the fine or whatnot. That'd be something they'd have to work out with the city attorney.
Okay, I just
a lot of times in the court system, it's $10. Every $10 is 1 community service hour. So I've seen cases where magistrates in traffic court let kids, young people, do community service instead of paying. So I suppose that's something that the city could work out. And then lastly, they could be arrested and sent to the juvenile system for violating a state law. So
I just want to know if that, if that'll be addressed in the whole.
But I think our city, I know that Chief Capri is a big supporter of citations for juvenile offenders for a whole host of things. So I think that program is really going strong. Last I saw, that was a program we use a lot. So.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you very kindly.
And Ms. Rivers, someone will probably be contacting you based on this information here to get some more information on your 501c3 and things like that.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
It's on file.
Okay, you have? Okay.
I've donated.
Fantastic.
We donated before. Yep. Thank you for your work with the kids.
Our next speaker is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is Joe Hanash.
Marjorie Johnson, 122 South East Street. I'd like to commend the county for the outstanding job that they're doing in our area. They have a new bridge that could be opened by the end year. They got $1.1 million from the Department of Transportation, and I helped serve and design that bridge, along with Kelly White, who sat in that seat. I'm here also to address the fact that at the last meeting, I spoke about things that need to be done in my zone, and Commissioner Paul Reed stated insanity is saying the same thing over and over. I can say whatever I want at this podium. I have freedom of speech. There are roads in my community that has not been paved. I'm not going to be for the hazard sales tax because you're not doing any work in our community with our tax dollars. I'm a homeowner of 50 years in my zone, and I am not pleased with the fact that that street that intersects where she lives, Magnolia, is all cracked up there on Martin Luther King, Orange Avenue, all the way back to Chuckers. And I spoke at this podium. The fact that you doesn't meet with me doesn't mean anything, because I get a lot of complaints from people in Zone 6 that nothing is getting done, and that Tree Street need to be paved also. Those streets are all cracked up. If you go across Orange Avenue all the way to South Street, that street needs to be paved. I'd just like to say that I'm not, insanity is sitting here 6 years and going on 3 months, and your work is not getting done, and no accessibility to our constituents is being, and residents are not being met. And this is a problem. The fact that we have been taken off the agenda during a meeting, and then the citizens who pay taxes get to speak after everything is over. That's another problem we never had when Mayor Richard was here, Scarlett Goldman. So our rights are being taken away from us slowly but surely. And I'm not pleased about that. So I will continue to speak out. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Racism and discrimination has been going on because we know about lawsuits that was brought from Huger, Sonia Wiles, who got a big settlement, and also the Orange Avenue Drive lawsuit. So we need these lawsuits stopped. Thank you, y'all. Have a good Hey, those streets.
Your time is up.
Okay. Our next speaker is Joe Hanash, and on deck is Charles Smythe.
I'm Joe Hanush. Sorry. I want to talk about cannabis. I know that was on the agenda here. It's going to be a second reading later on. And I just wanted to say, there was a question earlier. A young lady asked about like the fines or anything, the court costs, whatever. We could just not arrest them to begin with and not issue a citation at all, and that won't be an issue. So that's one way we could go about that. But in the meantime, I think if I'm understanding this correctly, it basically gives the officer discretion whether to send someone to jail for possession of 20 grams or less of marijuana or cannabis, or just issue a citation. I think it's a step in the right direction. Hopefully it'll be more than likely just a citation. I think taking cops off the road, spending the money to book someone, sending them to jail, it's just a waste of taxpayers' money for something that's small, less than 20 grams. Literally, it's small. And just doesn't harm anybody. And then people, if they get taken to jail, they got something on their record now. They get taken away from their family. It's hard to get a job. They probably lose their job while they're in jail. It's just bad all around. So I'm glad that it passed the first reading, I guess. Hopefully it'll pass the second one, and that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charles Smythe, and on deck is Bill Field.
God bless you, folks. I appreciate the opportunity to address you here tonight, and I come in peace. And I'm the only one that showed up yesterday at that county council meeting, and I'm glad I was fully armored up because it was a war zone over there. And by God, if not me, whom? If not now, when? And you people are doing a real good job of being civil to each other and amicable and talking things out. That's how you learn. You get other ideas from other people. You see what works. You take good ideas, and the other ones you put in the incinerator. But this cannabis thing, I think the fine is way too high at $500, and I don't know if the court cost of $275 is going to be added on top of that. And it's the poor people that are going to get caught doing that. And, you know, in Michigan and Colorado, they've had a $100 fine for 40 years. And we got like 12 states now that are have okayed recreational marijuana, and another 30 or 31 states so far that have the medicinal marijuana. And I've been here since '65, and by God, in 1975, the Florida legislature came within 2 votes of making marijuana legal in Florida for all uses. And only Jim Manry up there, the former sheriff in Flagler, voted, of all the sheriffs in the whole 67 counties in Florida, for the marijuana decriminalization. He said there's some crimes that do not warrant handcuffing people and dragging them off to jail. And by God, this doesn't need to be at the discretion of the police or whoever arrests them, whether to take them to jail or not, or whether to give them a fine. The fine's too high. Just give them a ticket, and you know, a lot of them are going to leave the state anyway, and we got to protect our image around here for our darn weed. And please read the book Marijuana Manifesto by Jesse Ventura, and that'll enlighten you a lot about what's going on with this thing. And then the Crab Shack over there, you know, the city paid $1.2 million to buy out the people that didn't do any maintenance on it at all for 20 years, and it cost another $6.2 million to fix up that pier. Let's go ahead and let them go out of business and get the dance floor back there that was the largest in the state and one of the largest in the whole Southeast. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Bill Field, and on deck is Jim Schultz.
Hold it. Why is our fine $500?
It's not. If I could clarify that
Yeah.
issue. The standard fine, which is approved by your fine schedule, is $100. That's the fine that can be paid up until the time of trial. If it goes to trial, the court then has discretion to impose a civil fine up to $500. So that's the maximum fine. There's no possibility for jail time. These will be purely civil violations, and they'll go through the traffic court system as opposed to the county court system as they've been handled in the past.
Thank you very much.
What about court costs and prosecution?
That's it.
Okay.
The court would have discretion to impose court costs as well if it goes to trial.
Okay. Try not to talk out, Mr. Smart. Go ahead.
Mr. Field.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Bill Field, 211 Mullally Street. I'd like to thank Commissioner May, my commissioner. She's doing an outstanding job. Ask the questions and ask them publicly. Absolutely. I'd like to thank the commissioners here. I think you all are outstanding. Every one of you. You all are doing a pretty good job. I think you work well together. You look into things. You ask the questions. The comments I have to do with the sober houses. I live on one of the streets that now has sober houses. We had one when we moved there. We didn't know it was a sober house, but we didn't have a problem with it. After we moved there, about a year and a half later, another sober house was bought up. And they moved. I understand there are issues with the Americans with Disabilities Act. However, we're talking about putting 10 or 20 people in a 3-bedroom house, 10 or 20 non-related people. Mm-hmm. As far as I know, that's an issue under any rental situation, and probably an issue with the ADA and fire marshals, most likely. A third house was bought up by the person who bought the second house, and they're doing the same thing. They're putting people in a shed, they're putting people in garages, things like that. They attempted to buy a fourth house. Somebody else got that house ahead of time. I don't know what to do about it, to tell you the truth, but the issue, I think one of the issues to look at is the number of people they're putting in these houses. There's got to be a violation of some sort there.
So, I guess as a commissioner, my question to us is, or the chief possibly, is this a code violation?
This would be a code violation. If you give the address, I'm sure code could look into it. Your building and fire safety codes would be applicable regardless of whether it's a sober home or other home.
Yeah, code enforcement's been there. Thank you, Chief Free. They've been there.
And what
They're
have
on
we,
top of it.
And what have we found?
They haven't told us yet, but they've made passes through, a number of passes through.
Okay.
To the third house especially that hadn't opened yet, but they're open now. So.
Okay.
The second thing I'd like to say is just a thought on the First Step Shelter and the fundraising problems. I think the biggest issue is probably location and lack of visibility. So that's just going to be a marketing situation. The First Shelter Board is going to have to market that a little better because it's not on people's radar. It's out west there, out of sight and out of mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Our next speaker is Jim Schultz, and on deck is Patricia Hurd.
Jim Schultz, 117 Harvard Drive. A few hours ago, or a couple hours ago, I sent email to you or a copy of the study that was done in Portland by the doctor, pediatrician. He gave his whole database over to a expert on medical information. And anyways, he deals with high-risk patients, kids who often have a brother or sister with neurological damage or autism. And his data showed that 715 children in his practice out of the 3,344 had no vaccines. Out of that, there were one that had autism. So that's 16 times better than the 1 in 45 of the government rate at that time. And the partially vaccinated ones who got a few to most of them had a rate that was 1 in 438. Still almost 10 times, a little bit less than 10 times better than the government rate that we're having now. Actually, the rate has increased to 1 in 36. That's still using old data. But the flu mist, like they were given that through the schools. I was reading the data. The data, the last 2 years that were given it, showed that it was nearly worthless. And guess what? Fourth year they pulled it because they admitted it was 3% effective. Oh, it was worthless. If they had been reading the data, they would have known that prior, just because it was an easy no shot. So Children's Health Defense is a good place to go for information. But UNESCO is also, in 2005, firmly stated that one of the basic tenets and rights in bioethics and human rights is informed consent. Right now there's a policy going on in the U.S. where we're going to remove consent from medical decisions.
Our next speaker is Patricia Hurd.
I'm back. Good afternoon again. Pat Hurd at the 822 Burns Street. I would like to say congratulations, and I just love the police department. They're there to protect and serve. I say that because during Bike Week, you know, the police came up there at the park and everything, and we were wondering what was going on because we don't have any problems up there, right? Right. Okay, so I read it in the paper today exactly what happened, talking about drugs and everything, and that's what was in the park, and you all got to your man. Okay, it was in the paper today. Again, if you see something, say something. Right? Right. Channel One restaurant. Only thing I'm saying, beautification, mow the lawns. I have to mow my lawn every week or so. And the parking lot is terrible. What I'm saying, over 5,000 cars travel Bellevue every day. And for them to pass by places like that, it shouldn't be. Now, Jimmy Ann Drive versus MLK. Now, we've been talking about MLK for a long time. And Jimmy Ann Drive has been done, repaid, and I'm still waiting for MLK, okay? And as far as the substation, well, it was good. everything, and I'm glad it's there. But the number of people were not there that we had expected. So I'm looking at getting together with a few people and letting those people know what is going on, and the police station is there for a reason, and they're going to do their job. So come out, enjoy it, learn the facts, and do better. My thing, Mayor, is that, you know, if kids and things go to jail nowadays, the family should pay for them to be in jail. That's my thought nowadays, because they should have learned to do better.
And that was my final speaker, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Chief Capri, could you hop up for a second, please? I meant to say thank you to you. I want to acknowledge the fact that Chief Capri, along with Mr. Chisholm, if you could please tell everybody what happened last week. I almost forgot. It was so exciting, but it just, you know.
We had some complaints in North Ridgewood and Taylor Avenue. It was a little bit out of control. We expedited. We've been working the area for a while, and we just kind of cut our investigation short, and we hit 4 problem houses at the same time. Commissioner May came with us, Mr. Chisholm, both armed with AR-15s.
No, none of that. None of that.
I'm just kidding. No, they were observers. They were observers.
It was at about 5:30 in the morning.
Was on the perimeter. We were good to go. No, we hit 4 problem houses, and we were able to condemn one of them. That was an open drug market in there, and it was there was probably a 2 or 3 year old child in there. Inside this house, it was deplorable conditions. There was several guns in the house, 2 guns in there, a bunch of drugs, and we actually were able to arrest the guy that was involved in the shooting a couple days prior on that street too. So the residents are extremely happy. They were calling me as of today, and they were just waiting to get it boarded up. We had some issues with all the rain, so now we got the wood coming that we need, and we'll board it up, and it's on the top of the list for demolition. So that's going to be a good piece there to remove the problems there. And then we got some follow up with the J Food Store next week that's been doing some not actually playing by the rules. So now they want to meet, and we'll see. We'll go from there. But we're trying to just change that whole dynamic in that neighborhood there, and it's working. 4 search warrants at one time, and we had about 20 cars, and all the citizens were coming out. They were very happy.
So Zone 3 thanks you. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And while he's there, let me just say thank you for the substation, Chief.
Yes.
I didn't mention you.
That's
I know
okay.
there was a lot of work, and I kept asking you every month, when.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful station.
It is
I think
beautiful.
it's going to serve us well, and I thank you and all the staff that helped put it together. You mentioned them at the opening.
Yeah, I think it was great. The city came together as a team and got that accomplished. Everybody had a piece of that team effort, and it's going to be there for many, many years to come, and for the residents, so they're not forgotten that live close by. And they have police right in their backyard now where they need. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.